matter in her response.
Order. I'm conscious of the fact that there may be a vote shortly. Have you finished? Yeah.
Well, I have now.
Yeah, okay. There may be a vote, so I may have to suspend proceedings. I call Preet Kaur Gill.
Thank you, Sir Mark, and it's an honour to serve under your chairmanship. I would like to thank the Honourable Member for Darlington for securing this important debate, and for the many colleagues who have made some excellent points, including my friend, the member for City of Durham, a great campaigner on this. Many members have today focused their remarks on the impact of vaping on children, and they are absolutely right too. Speaking for the opposition, we recognise the value of vapes as a stop smoking tool. They have their place. The Chief Medical Officer put it bluntly, if you smoke, vaping is much safer. If you don't smoke, don't vape. But the CMO has also been blunt about the epidemic rise in youth vaping in recent years. Nicotine addiction is in no one's interest apart from the companies that profit from it. Certainly, no child should be vaping. We do not even know some of the long-term risks of the ingredients used in vapes, and certainly not when inhaled by young people whose lungs and brains are still developing. Yet I'm afraid to say the government has been asleep at the wheel on this. In 2021, as we've heard, Labour voted for an amendment to the Health and Care Bill to crack down on the marketing of vapes to children. And since then, as Labour has found, the number of children aged 11 to 17 who are vaping regularly has more than trebled. That is more than 140,000 British children. Meanwhile, 1 in 5 children have now tried vaping. So does the Minister regret that her government and MPs voted against this amendment in 2021? But the issue is, it's now 2024 and we still have no legislation in place. It is bad enough that so many children are using these products, but it is even worse when we consider how many products on the market are illegal in their own right. This was an issue that other members raised too. As the Chief Medical Officer has warned, these can contain dangerous chemicals like lead and nickel. Some products contain nicotine when claiming they do not, or contain harmful THC chemicals found in cannabis. To be clear, in most cases, this amounts to a failure in enforcing existing regulations, and it really is shocking. Last year, Interscientific and the BBC conducted an analysis of vapes confiscated from school children and found the vast majority did not meet UK product regulations and were actually illegal. A separate analysis they conducted of 300 products seized by various trading standards around the country found that 88% were non-compliant with UK regulations, 23% had a nicotine strength over the legal limit, 15% contained lead, which when inhaled, can damage children's central nervous system and brain development. 100% contained nickel, 33% contained nicotine, despite being marketed at 0%, which absurdly means they can be sold to children. So can the Minister tell us what she is going to be doing to crack down on this influx of illegal vapes so dangerous products are not falling into the hands of our young children? From speaking to experts in the industry, I've heard that there's been an influx into the United Kingdom in recent years of illegal vapes. One expert I consulted said that they think that there's around 6 million illegal vape products which have flooded the UK in the last 12 to 24 months. So can the Minister comment on why it seems to be that the UK is being targeted more so than many other countries? And where does she think these products are coming from? Until now, UK regulations have largely inoculated us from public health scares like the spate of hospitalisations from popcorn lung in the United States. But does she share my concern that if we don't get a grip on illegal products flooding our market, we could actually face something very similar here? And lastly, can she comment on what she has learned from the government's consultation about the percentage of vapes circulating in the UK which are actually legal within the 2016 regulations? Because if it's anything like the 88% found by Interscientific, then I think we have a very big problem. So, Mark, a glaring issue many have identified is enforcement. Trading standards, as we all know, is stretched, and Border Force are evidently not stopping the import of illegal vapes in sufficient numbers. But the government hasn't made their job easy either. One issue is confusing regulations. I know the government has said it will act to close the loophole that whilst illegal to sell vapes to children, it's fine to hand them out. It is also currently legal to sell nicotine-free vapes to under 18s, and we have heard less from the government on this, and it is of serious concern. Labour has been vocal on this issue. As I flagged, these 0% nicotine vapes often do, in fact, contain nicotine or other harmful chemicals. So can the Minister confirm that the government will take action to ban these from being sold to children? This strikes me as a blatant loophole that is giving unscrupulous companies scope to hook young children on their products as a gateway to addiction. 0% nicotine vapes are currently out of the scope of the regulations, meaning they do not need to be registered with the MHRA. Will she now require all manufacturers to notify vape products, regardless of nicotine content, to the MHRA? This would allow for a complete database of products where currently it's actually not possible to completely say which products are legal or illegal, which is really undermining enforcement action again. Speaking of the MHRA, we must also recognise that the relevant authorities are not always empowered to do what is needed to crack down on those breaking the rules. It strikes me as a serious shortcoming that as long as products complete notification requirements with the regulator, their product is actually allowed to go on the UK market without it being tested as a whole. The MHRA, the regulator, does not have powers to test products to determine whether they are actually even compliant with what producers claim are actually in them. So nor does it have powers to remove notifications once published. I mean, I have to say, under this government, children are using vapes with nicotine. It is pretty scandalous, given that we know that the lack of regulations. And I say this because when the producer of Elf bars was found to be selling products which had larger tank sizes than they were actually allowed, the regulations didn't actually provide the powers for the MHRA to remove the product from the market, as the product notification said that it was actually compliant. I mean, that is farcical. It's a huge concern, but not just for me, I think for most members across the House. So will the Minister say whether she's looking at this as part of the legislation? Will she consider allowing the MHRA to use notification fees for testing and enforcement and give them the powers to remove notifications from publication and, if necessary, actually take products off the market? Likewise, does she believe that Border Force has the powers that it actually needs? Finally, will the Minister finally tackle the issue of youth vaping, as we've heard from many members, by doing what Labour has called for years, and ban vapes from being branded and advertised to appeal to children? Many members said that we've seen all the displays in our local off-licences, flavours like Gummy Bear and Unicorn Shake, colourfully packaged pick-and-mix products at pocket money prices. This really do need to be banned. I give way.
Making some very good points about the regulations that need to be brought in to protect children. Asking her specifically on the points of colours and flavours, I don't think anybody thinks that the colours and flavours are not there in some respects to attract children, because how many adults are going to want a unicorn milkshake, whatever that tastes like, flavoured vapes? So can I ask the Honourable Lady, would the Labour Party support legislation brought in by the government to ban all but one colour and to severely restrict the flavours available?
I think, definitely what's being marketed at children is clearly the different flavours. Now, I do appreciate that adults do choose different flavours as part of their whole smoking cessation. So we do need to look at this evidence in the round once we're in the bill, and I'd be keen to look at what the government says on that and to look at the evidence base, because I think it's the ingredients, the makeup of colours and the makeup of how we get to those flavours. It's about what those ingredients actually mean. And so really making sure that we've got a proper evidence base on that issue. I'll take.
The industry about it. I was talking to one of the industry representatives about the issue of flavours in particular, and he told me that when a smoker decides to quit, they get themselves a vape of often tobacco flavoured vape. They start on the tobacco flavoured vape. Their sense of smell and taste improves because they've stopped smoking. They then no longer like the taste of the tobacco vapes, and they move on to cherry cola or some other different type of vape. And that actually persists their addiction. So their concern about removing the flavours is that actually, instead of stopping using the vapes, people will continue.
The Honourable Lady has already spoken. We still have the Minister to come, and she requires 10 minutes at least. And it's now 5:19. Can I suggest to the opposition spokesperson she makes an end to her speech very quickly.
So, Mark, the next Labour government would come down like a ton of bricks on companies profiting at the expense of our children's health. And as part of our Child Health Action Plan, we will crack down on companies peddling vapes to children. We will work with local councils and the NHS to ensure that they are being used as a stop smoking aid rather than a new form of smoking. We will tackle health inequalities, get serious about prevention and make sure children born in Britain today are part of the healthiest generation that ever lived. I look forward to the Minister's response. Thank you.
Minister Dame Andrea Leadsom.
Thank you, Sir Mark. It's a pleasure to speak under your chairmanship today.